Well, welcome back, everyone. This is the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I am your host. If you like honest, vulnerable, and real stories about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself, then this show is for you. Each of my guests started out as ordinary people like you and me, but have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great, masters, or experts at what they have been called to do. Join me each episode for inspiring, encouraging, and meaningful conversations with diverse people from all walks of life and industry. Leaders and brave individuals who offer unique insights into the fields of arts, entertainment, business, finance, technology, healthcare, sports, psychology, recovery, self improvement, personal growth, and so much more. Whether you are in the same fields as my guests or not, I guarantee you will walk away from each episode feeling better about yourself and inspired to take the next bold step toward your own goals and aspirations. Your life will improve if you dare to be great and dare to be you. And we have a very special guest today with us. We have Tanya Thompson, and let me tell you a little bit about Tanya, and I'll give you the backstory, and then I'm going to read her bio. Tanya and I met at an author event here in Petaluma a few weeks ago and just hit it off. She's rowing in a similar river that I am as far as reaching out to different people, but we both have some common goals, and we'll get into what that all means in just a minute. So, who is Tanya Thompson? She's an MPM, MPA, CPM, and the founder of Level Up Coaching. She's also the creator of the Storyboard Method, a framework that helps individuals, leaders, and organizations transform lived experience into strategy for growth and resilience. And we're going to talk about that. With 30 years across law enforcement, education, and social work, Tanya brings expertise in personal empowerment, cultural transformation, and organizational change. Her work bridges the personal and systemic, guiding individuals to reclaim their voice and purpose, equipping leaders to foster inclusion and integrity, and supporting organizations to unlock shared knowledge and build thriving, future ready workplace cultures. She holds a master's in public administration with a focus on organizational change and counseling, and is a certified public manager, a national designation for leaders in public service. Through her coaching, speaking, and advocacy, Tanya challenges systems while equipping people at every level to step into freedom, power, and possibility. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. So happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you on the show. And we're going to kind of go in reverse order here because those last three words, freedom, power, and possibility. And isn't that what life is really all about?
That is exactly what life is all about, but that's not how we live it.
It isn't.
That is so not how we live
We're
it.
going to talk about this and we're going to have a little open dialogue here. But, those are three things. You also talked about some of the personal and systemic bridges. And let's start with freedom, power, and possibility, jump from that into the personal and systemic bridges. What does that mean?
Which the freedom, power, and possibility?
No, the bridges. I'm interested in the bridges because there's a lot of stuff that has not yet changed in the corporate arena, and we're going to talk about that on the show.
Absolutely. So for me, the bridges between the freedom, power, and possibility and what's actually happening systemically, those are the bridges that I want to help build. Because, like you said, there's lots of changes that haven't happened in corporate America. And because my focus has been public service, it's even more, what's the word I want to use? It's even more alarming at the lack of change and transformation that's happening in our government systems. And these are the systems that, if we can, as individuals, imbue ourselves with freedom, power, and possibility, we can then begin to shape how these systems deal with us as the people.
And let's dive in a little bit deeper because there's some phrasing and the current administration where it's not going to be a political show, but the current administration basically ripped out almost every possible civil right thing that was there that could be done. But let's talk briefly about these bridges and as it relates to DEI. I mean, you've got the qualifications to talk about this from a coaching perspective and from an educational perspective. My question here, though, is, part of that bridge is it's a nice little marketing branding piece, but if you take a look under the hood, literally at most of the corporations in America, they're more indicative of the population that they serve. And albeit there are DEI requirements. So what would you do? And what are actually, let's not go into what you would do. What are some of the problems as you see them right now?
What I've been experiencing in terms of the bigger problems is the bigger problems are in the leadership. Remember, it trickles down. So if the leadership is not skilled, is not committed, is not invested in diversity, equity, or inclusion, not lip service,
Mm-hmm.
not lip service, because that's what my advocacy platform is all about. You mentioned the larger administration, the presidential administration that's stripping civil rights. I'm showing up to talk more specifically about our administration right here in California
Okay.
because Gavin Newsom is not upholding civil rights either. And one of the things that I say in my YouTube channel is Governor Newsom, your Trump is showing because he is running the exact same administration as Donald Trump when it comes to, at least, when it comes to upholding these civil rights protections. And I'll say that from a person who's had very direct experience with this with the governor. So, as an employee of the state of California, I'm sorry, let me correct that. As a former employee, I just quit my job on Tuesday and left the state because of these reasons. And when I brought this issue to Gavin Newsom, that his state agencies, his executive directors, his Department of Justice are failing, and the Civil Rights Department themselves are failing to uphold these protections. Specifically, I talk about SB 497, which is the Equal Pay and Anti-Retaliation Act, which was my experience. I had a manager file an EEO complaint against me, the employee, which we know EEO exists to govern employers.
Right.
How a manager was allowed to file a complaint, have it investigated, and then have the Civil Rights Department tell me in writing that the manager can do that. This is an administration that is not about doing what's right or upholding the protections that they actually put into law.
And that's it's got to be disheartening. Is that one of the main reasons why you left?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I get that, if there's in corporate, regardless, DEI aside and civil rights and civil liberties aside, and coming back down to what people and workers have as a common thread, regardless of employer, regardless of a job, regardless of economic status and education status, all of us want to be loved and accepted and at least built up and given an opportunity to flourish in something that we are skilled or qualified to do.
absolutely.
And I can't speak to this because I'm a white guy from middle class, middle class white
Mhm.
hippie from West Marin. But you know what? I'm a kid of the 60s. I grew up around a lot of this stuff. I included it in one of my first books. It's just, and it to this day,
Yeah.
it just chaps my ass 65 years later that we're still having this conversation that Martin Luther King was trying to change in a peaceful way
Yeah.
65 years ago. It's disgusting to me. It's
It is.
flat out disgusting.
I agree. And I will tell you, I even wrote in one of the grievances that I submitted to the agency on this. I cannot believe at this point it was 2022, and I put in there, I cannot believe in 2022 we are still having conversations about equal pay for equal work. whether it's a man, a woman, black, white, purple, or green. These things have been addressed years ago. And one of the things that I talk about is that we talk about the system, right? We call it the system. And when we talk about freedom, power, and possibility, if we allow people to be empowered to do their lives the way that they choose to do them, then the systems would be able to support us in
Right.
doing that. When I look at the laws are in place. The laws are what make the system a system because we put laws and policies and these things are in place. But it's not that the system is broken. The laws are there to protect us in the system. It's the people who are managing the system who are intentionally choosing not to enforce the laws, not to uphold the rights and privileges that people deserve and are entitled to. That's where the breakdown is.
So, I mean, you've got 3 decades of experience in this, Tanya, and I'm just going to ask some direct questions here because you're qualified to answer it. But with 30 years in law enforcement, education, and social work, you see there's symptoms and there's root causes. And from your perspective of 3 decades of work in these three arenas, what do you see as a potential not fix, but what is going to happen to make this shift happen short of a whole lot of people who are currently in positions of power? I mean, there's empowerment as individuals, but there's also power that's power and control from a governmental or a business standpoint. We all know that, and it doesn't matter what our ethnicity is or our background. That's just the way that this country runs. And as long as it's a capitalistic society, that's how it's going to run.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what are some things that we can do as individuals to help shift this short of, replacing some of the leadership? I mean, that's the obvious thing that comes to mind, but what other opportunities do you see for making this shift to uphold laws that have already been agreed upon, uphold policies, and enforce them?
There is no easy answer to that. The course of action that I see that I am hoping to help usher into this age is helping each individual person find their voice so that when we come up against people, rulers, authoritarians who are attempting to withhold access, benefits, whatever it is, so that we can live this quote unquote American dream. What I am hoping, what I believe we need is for all individuals. It's not about a position of power. It's about people not recognizing or people not connecting to our humanness, right? It's been said many times before. There's far more that connects us than what separates us. But a lot of what I talk about are stories, right?
Sure.
My work is based on the stories that drive our lives. We live our whole lives in stories. The only way we know we exist is from the stories that we tell each other about who we are, where we work, what we do, who our families are. So it's all about the stories. And so, as we are shifting the stories, right now, the story that we live in is, oh, we're a capitalistic society. Oh, this is the story we drive. Oh, this is how we treat people. These are the stories that just layer in and layer in. And we don't challenge them, we don't question them. We allow the people in power to just say what they say and do what they do, and we don't challenge. Part of what I experienced in the state is that when I challenged, that's when it got rough. When
Yeah.
I said, this is not okay, they decided, yeah, we know it's not okay, but that's not what we're going to tell you. We're going to tell you that this is fine. There was the gaslighting. There was, even though they knew it was wrong, they told me that this was legitimate. These are where the problems are. There's no connection. There's not no, because this isn't everybody. There is a concentrated position where people are failing to connect with the humanness that every person, like you said when we started, we all at the end of the day want to be loved, want to belong, want to connect.
Right.
How do we do that?
And part of this is, I mean, this is deep, and we're having a deep, probably one of the deeper conversations that I've had on this podcast. But it's important because you're on this show because you have 30 years of experience in this environment, in this arena, and now you're taking that experience to craft through level up, a way and a pathway for people to embrace this shift and to lower the guards. I mean, here's kind of my 30,000 foot perspective, and I've written several books about this. Um, we are all products of our upbringing, and that's not going to change. We're also products of our environment, and we're products of what we choose, the internal biases that we continue, the stories, the internal stories that we continue to tell ourselves, and those become so real that whether they are real or not, that is our truth.
Yes.
And what happens, and this is going back to the Jim Crow days, this is going back way back,
Mhm.
is the fear of the other.
Yes.
And this fear mentality that if I sacrifice something here, that it's a zero sum game. And it's not. It is not a zero sum game. And that, to me, what this conversation we're having right now, this just came to me, is that is a big dividing line here. That is the core issue that I see here, is that if I bend, I am going to miss out on getting mine. And guess what, folks? I was, a poor kid. When my dad split, I was raised with two younger brothers and my mom. We didn't barely have a pot to piss in. And when it was dinner time, we made do with what we had. As hungry teenagers, we ate and we fought for the food and whoever got the most, and that was it. But at the end of the day, we all ate. We never went to bed hungry. The point is, we have so much wealth and so much opportunity in this country that there is no reason for people to be holding on to fear or fearful of losing what we have.
Absolutely.
So if you could, in your words, kind of talk to that a little bit, because I want to hear your perspective since you're in it and you've lived it for a little while. And then we'll transition into reframing this story using your storyboard method.
Awesome. And
Hmm.
what I'll say is pause. Now I got three things in my head. Tell me the
I,
question
I
I'm
I
going to
threw a lot at you. So
say.
yeah,
Let
I
me
do
make sure
that
I give you
sometimes.
the right answer because I moved into storyboard. So back up. That
That's all
wasn't where
right.
we were going yet.
Storyboard will come later. So right
There
now,
you
what we're
go.
talking about is, how do you do these? Here's a simple way to frame the question. It's not, there isn't such a finite amount that we're not going to get ours.
hmm hmm
So how do we make this conversation a little bit more equitable? And it's equanimity, not equality always, because, and we can argue that all day long, but quality and equanimity are not the same thing.
Absolutely.
So let's start there.
Absolutely. So what I heard you say was it's a capitalistic society. And it is. And ironically, I was having this conversation
Mm.
with my son. He's 18 and I'm so proud of him. He's on it. He's starting at UC Davis in the fall or
Oh, it's
next couple of
awesome.
weeks. And we were actually having this conversation about capitalism. He hates it. He thinks capitalism is the devil and it needs to go. I actually think capitalism can work, right? I think there is a system for capitalism to work. The problem that we have with capitalism is basically what you said. People are greedy.
Yeah.
We're greedy. Instead of recognizing, like you said, there is more than enough for everybody. More than enough for everybody. And if we could learn to be satisfied with what is sufficient for us, right? Everybody doesn't need billions. Everybody doesn't even want billions. You know what I mean? And when I really look at what's the issue is the internal man. We are not connected with who we are as individuals, what we want, what those stories are. We're too busy chasing the societal model, not staying committed to what we really want, right? When I really get serious about what I want, would I love to have millions of dollars? Absolutely. But would I know what to do with it? No, I don't need millions of dollars. I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to pay my bills, enjoy my life, or whatever. But I don't need millions and billions of
Hmm.
dollars to do that. And so if I can take the money that I make, have the life that I want to live, then there's still plenty for everybody else. The
Yeah.
problem we have is too much greed and too little human care and concern in the world. And what I like to do is to help people pull apart those stories, right? Because we're so indoctrinated to
Hmm.
the societal, this is what we do. This is the
Well,
whole
yeah, the American dream has now become a
that's it.
nightmare. It's the first time I hear
Absolutely.
I've said that, but the American dream, as we have known it and has been pushed down our throats since
Yes.
basically infancy,
Mhm.
is a nightmare.
Absolutely.
Unless, and it's a nightmare, and we're going to go back to what you just talked on, because unless we take a step back and we look in the mirror and we see what it is that we really want, what our true talents and treasures are, and what we want to give back to the world, and not be greedy, selfish, self-centered, egotistical punks.
Basically.
I mean, that's bottom line, right? But because here's the thing, there's you look at people who have lived in much more adverse conditions, who immigrated to this country, who hung up their shingle, who did what it took to become US citizens, did what it took to get the degrees or the certifications to open up a business. They have a dream. That part of the American dream is still alive and well. What we have, and I'm just going to stand on a soapbox here for a second because I want to hear it from your side too. We have a complacency problem.
Mhm.
Americans have it so easy in general, and this is a total generalization, that we we don't hurt bad enough.
Mhm.
We're comfortable and we like our comfort and we don't want to work harder because we don't need to.
Mhm.
Ergo, a book that I'll write down the road is, The Gifts of Desperation. We're not
Mhm.
hungry enough, to put it bluntly.
Really? Okay.
So there's greed and there's the exact opposite. There's two extremes here.
Mm.
So with this story that we started to talk about, let's look at that and dovetail into the storyboard method, because you this is where you and I are lockstep, going in the
Mhm.
same direction. You have a different core group of people you're going to be able to reach versus
Mhm.
the people that I'll be able to reach. But the
Mhm.
conversation is exactly the same, Tanya.
Absolutely.
Taking a look in the mirror and finding out what it is that we
Yeah.
really want to do and
Mhm.
why we want to do it.
Yeah.
So, how does it work with your storyboard method?
Perfect. One of the things that you said a minute ago was so spot on, and it's that we don't look enough. You said we don't work hard enough. And I want to push that a little bit. I don't know that I'd say we don't work hard enough because, and I think that might depend on what
Mhm.
hat you get to wear, right?
Sure.
Coming from a middle-aged white guy who's, been middle class, whatever, that might be one thing. From someone who's in skin like mine, that working hard is very different,
Yeah.
right? Because we come in, and let me just speak from me, let me speak from my story. I came in working doubly hard, doubly hard, right? I got overeducated, overqualified to still be told I don't know what I'm talking about, or still not get the same opportunities. So that is still a very real piece, right? That's still a very real piece. I don't know that we can solve those issues in this little podcast, but to take it to the storyboard arc, because it's a perfect layer. When we look at those realities, because we all are coming with different lenses, we don't appreciate that we all have a different lens. We think our lens is the lens.
And that's normal. I mean, we're all that's not going to change no matter what
I
you or I
disagree.
do.
It can change.
It can
And
change a
but
little
that's
bit.
where we have to, but that's where the work comes in.
Right.
Because what you said is we're complacent. We don't want to do the work. The
Right.
work we don't want to do is the work
Mm,
inside of us.
exactly.
That's the work we won't do. We will not challenge these systems. I often teach in my coaching, and I get so much pushback from this, but it's indicative of where we're stuck. We live in a system, we live in a society, we live in a culture that refuses to be responsible. We are
I'm
not
sorry. You
accountable.
got to, I'm laughing because I know you couldn't make the book talk, but the book Chill that I just wrote, that it's all 100% about personal responsibility.
Bam.
It
And
in a nutshell.
that's where I think we change the course of the process. When we get responsible for ourselves, when I started working at, I worked at Solano County probation for a while. And when I started there, I met one of the therapists on board. And I can't remember his name right now, and I probably wouldn't put him out there on blast. But one of the things he told me that has stuck with me, he told me, he said, your feelings are your own.
Mm.
Your feelings are your own. Nobody can make you feel any way. Nobody makes you do anything. Your feelings are your own. But we live in a world where we are not responsible for ourselves, right? The system did this to me. My boss did that to me.
It's the
My
blame game.
parents did this to me. No, 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 no. They did what they did, but I chose that lens, that perception, that
Mhm.
perspective. I chose how to attach to that experience. I chose how to process that situation. And I chose to live into that experience as though my perception was true. Where I think we will go leaps and bounds is when more and more people can become responsible for the reality that my lens is not the lens, it is a lens. And when I can be responsible for what I bring to the conversation, what I bring to the organization, what I bring to the relationship, if I am ready to be 100% responsible for how I show up, and whoever's on the other side of the conversation is ready to be 100% responsible for how they show up, that's when we have conversation and we have dialogue. Because now we're not trying to beat each other out to prove
Yeah.
I'm right or I'm better. We're actually trying to address the issues that are at play. That's where we begin to make change.
And that's what you just said is so powerful. I've never heard it quite put that way, but my lens is a lens, not the lens. And I'll say it one more time. My lens is a lens, not the lens. And that lens, that internal bias that I talked about earlier, is where the friction happens. It's different
Absolutely.
than what my values, beliefs, morals, upbringing is.
Yes.
Therefore, it's wrong. I'm
Yes.
right, you're wrong. And as long as
Yes.
this tug of war happens,
Yes.
what you just said, there can never, and this will be
Never.
out there on video because this is an important one I will put on YouTube. The
Oh,
connectivity is
mhm,
here.
mhm.
And the beauty and power of having conversations with people that are different than us, have different skills, is the combined power, if you want to talk power, and the combined freedom of expression and the combined lift of uplifting everybody is more than double when two people come together.
Yes.
The rising tide raises all ships.
Mm.
So you brought up something earlier too, and I don't want to let it slide because most of my fans probably are, white middle class and will understand this. And you brought up something that's very important, and I want you to have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about it. When I said work harder, I was focusing primarily on working internally, and that has no qualms about who people are from
Mhm.
ethnicity or otherwise.
Mhm.
The other side, going back to what we first started talking about, which, in many respects, I'm privileged because of my skin color.
Mhm.
I had to work my ass off. I was a poor kid when my dad split. I worked my ass off all my freaking life, and I'm tired of it. Now I'm doing what I did. I made lots and lots of money in my lifetime, but now I want to help other people go lift them up.
Yes.
But the opportunities that came my way are a whole lot easier because of who I am
Yes.
than they are for people who aren't like me.
That's right.
And that's just a reality. And I don't know that that's ever going to change 100%. I like to have hope that it will. But to me, on a Briggs Meyer thing, I'm not that guy that likes to have the justice part. That's me.
Mhm. Me too. Me
And you
too.
know what?
Me too.
I don't like it. So I'm doing what I can as a middle class white guy to help change that dynamic. I have all my freaking life and I'm not going to do it until I die, until I'm gone. So,
I appreciate that. I'm with you in the fight. And what I've discovered is it takes a village. It can't just be all people of color. It can't be all non people of color. Like we have to be coming together to address these things. The more that folks who think, believe, and understand these situations, like you, come together with people like me, we have synergy. And then we get out there and we tap into others, and that's how the wave kicks off, right?
yeah, and it takes this combined there what I've seen because I've got I don't know if I share with you, but I've got coming up on 39 years of recovery experience. That is the complete homogeneous melting pot, if you ever will, because it doesn't have any qualms about what your
Nope.
skin color is, where you
Nope.
came from, or what your upbringing is. The bottom line is it's a freaking disease and it
Mm,
doesn't care.
bam. Bottom line.
The difference is the solution in that and those some of those recovery programs is a similar solution that I'm doing what I can to kind of incorporate into my own internal process that I'm teaching and writing about
Mhm.
is a common thread. And until that common thread or that common purpose and that common reason of being exists without fear of losing out,
Mhm.
that's the conversation point where you can have a common goal. And when we come together and have a common goal, then we start looking at what we can do individually and collectively to conquer this. I'm going to call it a systemic pandemic problem
Mhm.
because it is. The
Mhm.
fact
I
that we're
get
even
that.
having this conversation in 2025
Hello.
is honestly, it's not good.
It is not.
But
It
we're
is
doing
not.
it, Tanya.
It is absolutely mind-blowing that we are having this conversation on this level. Like I would swear I was back in 1975, but I was too young to know what was going on back then. I was just one.
Yeah.
But to know that we still have to have these conversations and we still have to do this work, to me, all that goes to show is that we've spent too much time. We spent the last 50, 60, 70 years on the wrong thing.
Yep.
We've been putting band-aids on cancer when at the end of the day, what we need to be doing is healing relationships between communities.
Absolutely.
Period.
And the church and religious organizations can't do all of that heavy lifting. This is my mantra is that in chill and in my life, what chill is just an extension of what I've grappled with most of my adult life, is that if the change is going to happen, it's up to me to do the
That's right.
inside work first, to
First,
put my own
absolutely.
oxygen mask on, to
Yep.
do the heavy lifting, the hard work, and the
Yes.
introspecting, and have some serious radical honesty with myself, not just my between my own ears, but
Yes.
input 360 from therapists, coaches, counselors, sponsors,
Yes.
whomever, to say, am I on the right track? So how, from a coaching perspective, I'm teeing it up so you can kind of riff
Perfect.
for a little bit here on the storyboard method. So tell me what this is and how you help people get to what we're talking about right here.
Beautiful. You teed it up perfectly. And so what we do in the storyboard method, like I said, we live our lives in stories, right? And we spend a lot of time, we talk about vision boards, we manifest because everybody just wants to get out of where we are, right? There's a
Hmm.
quote, who says this? I want to say it's Napoleon Hill. I want to say it's Napoleon Hill. I'm almost positive it's him. It's on a sticky note on my mirror in my bathroom. He says, most men, oh, now I'm gonna mess it up. He said, men are most men want to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. Something to that effect.
Yep.
And when I first read that quote many moons ago, it stuck. And so it became really important to do the work on myself. So what I do with the storyboard method, it's a 3 arc process. And we start by identifying what is the current reality. Where am I right now? Not physically, not your zip code, not your address, but where am I in my being as a human being?
You're
What
talking about the
lens?
5 things: emotionally, spiritually, physically, and all that, right?
Yes, all of that. In my being, how am I showing up in life? What lens am I viewing life through that I say is the only way that life can go? So I take you through the process to start to uncover some of those things. And
Okay.
it's not something that you're going to do easy because like you said, we have these conversations between our head all the time.
Oh God, and then we start arguing with ourselves too and trying to
Yes,
justify
yes,
our
yes,
own
yes, yes,
lies, basically.
yes. But we want to get to our real, true current reality. We start to really pull back. I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm thinking Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements.
Yes.
And, he talks about not making assumptions and he talks about, I can't remember all four of them, but those are like very, very core things that you just start to bring into your individual responsibility for how you show up in life. And if I can start being responsible for my presumptions or assumptions, then I can shift. So when I make an assumption of who you are as a white guy sitting across the table from me, I can say, oh, but you know what? That's just my presumption. So let me get quiet and let me actually be open. We spend too much time listening to stories that are already running in our head that we're not present to the people we're talking to.
Repeat that because I don't want listeners who are we're both talking fast. I want listeners to take a beat and hear what you just said one more time.
Yes. I said we spend so much time when we have a conversation, we spend so much time in the stories of who the person is across from us that we're not even focused on what they're actually saying because we're too full of what we've already decided was going to be said or what they mean and all of that. So we're not present, we're not listening. And so we start by really coming present with our reality. What's the current reality? So once we do some work with identifying what's our current reality, then we look at what's our vision. This is where we are. Where do we really want to be? So we go through the pieces to really identify what's the vision, not the pie in the sky, not just the, oh, da da da, da, but what is it that you really want to be? And let me correct that, not what, but who, right? Because it's not about what you have, it's who you become on the journey, right? That's the quote, right? It's not about the destination, it's who you become on the journey. So when we look at vision, I'm looking at who are you being, not what are you getting, but who are you being when you have that? Because at the end of the day, it's about being that person so that you can do the things that you need to do to have the things that you want to have. We have it backwards. We think we got to do so we can have, so we can be, but that's not true.
I knew there's a reason I had you on here. You're speaking my language. I spent probably 2 chapters talking about this shit in one of my
Yes,
books. It's like,
exactly.
but it's
And
the
that's
truth.
it. And that's it.
No, there's this, what you're talking about is subtle shifts
Hmm.
and just the simple thing from everybody's really hung up on
Yes.
how. We're
Hmm.
freaking how till we're blue in the face. It
Yes.
isn't about how. It's about what and who and then why.
Hmm.
I got your how right here.
Yes. Yes. And of course, if you have a strong enough why, you can endure anyhow.
Yeah, that's Nietzsche, and you got it nailed right there.
Right? The how doesn't matter. It's the why. Why am I after this? So that's what I help break down in the vision part. So once we know where we are and we know where we're going, the
So
last step in
let
the
me
arc.
interrupt just real
Mhm,
briefly there. So on this who of where we are and identifying all that goes there, that's probably a big part of your work.
mhm.
Once you got the who, do you translate in that vision step of the three arcs to the why so that there attaches a meaning to it, or does that come in the
Yes.
third one? Okay,
That is what the vision is about. The
okay,
vision is not about the things
got
so
it,
much. The things become the representation on the board.
got
But
it.
because it's a storyboard process, I guess I should start that. I should start with that, huh? Let me explain that a little bit. The storyboard process, the way it came to be, I started doing vision boards back early 20s. So over 20 some odd years ago now, 25 years ago. I've been doing vision boards for a very long time, but my vision boards were just pretty decoration.
Sure.
And I couldn't figure out, well, I got all these visions, but nothing's happening. Somewhere around 10, 12 years ago, I got the intent to actually journal out, okay, this is the vision. What are the pieces that I want? What are the different areas of life? Like, what's the real big vision? So I started writing out what's the story that I want to tell about my life. So we go in my visioning exercise, we look ahead,
Hmm.
we vision, and then you write the story in reverse,
I like that.
right?
That's straight out of Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind. Yes. So we write the story in reverse, and that way you start to layer in the story that you're telling. Because remember, all of our life is a story.
It is, and neuroscience
All
will
of our life is a story.
support the fact that the stories that we tell, whether they're true or not, we believe as if they are true. So
As
what you're
if they are true.
suggesting, I'm on board 100% with it. I've done it
Mhm.
myself too.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the storyboard method came about when I got to the place where I said, "Oh, the vision and the story go together." I was on a retreat in Hawaii in 21, I think, 21, maybe it was 22. And I met a girl that was on retreat and she worked in Hollywood and she had talked about a storyboard and she told me what it was. I was like, oh, that's perfect. That's what I want to do. So I just borrowed the terminology from Hollywood and I created my process from there. And that is the storyboard. I call it the perfect marriage between vision board and storytelling. And so arc one is current reality, arc two is the vision, and then the third arc of that is to identify what's in the way. So if you know where you are and you know where you're going, what's in the way? So then we look at what are your obstacles. And that's where we start to address fear, um, and all of the things, the barriers that kind of keep you stuck. The book, I'm writing the book. I think it'll be done by the end of this month and off to the publisher. And one of the things we do in the book when we're talking about the obstacles is we look at both external and internal barriers, the
Hmm.
systemic barriers, financial barriers, the internal cultural barriers, the stories we tell, the not good enough. So we look at all of those barriers that are in the way and we start to identify how they're showing up. And then we start to make the steps so that we can be responsible for the stories that we're telling around these barriers, because they're just stories around the barriers. So
Exactly.
we start to look at the stories that we're living into around the barriers, and then how can we change them?
So in that change process, how far along do you go? Is there identify it so that you can put verbiage and language to what those are? Because without language, we have a hard time grasping, at least in the conscious level, what those issues are.
Mhm.
Self-doubt, fear in all of its form is really the underlying theme of most obstacles and blocks.
Mhm.
Um, but do you take it to the next level and, like you do in the vision step, create a new story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is the whole point. So once we identify the obstacles, then we go back to the vision, and then you start to craft what are your steps that are going to help you get there. So then I help you figure out, okay, so these are the things that are in the way. So now we start creating your plan so that you can be responsible for catching those barriers when they show up. I teach you the catch it, check it, change it technique so that you can get present to when these obstacles are showing up so that you
Say
can
that again one
become
more time.
responsible.
Catch it,
Catch it, check it, change it. It's a
check it.
CPT tool. Yeah. Catch it, check it, change it. And it's literally get present. When it shows up, recognize it. The other thing that we do a lot is we get caught up in judging everything, right? Oh, this
Not
is good.
us.
This is bad.
Nah.
This is right. This is wrong. And we don't want to find ourselves in situations where I have to be responsible for something that's bad or wrong. No, I don't want to be responsible for that. Sean made me do that, so it's his fault that I'm this bad person.
Yeah, because if we point the finger, then we don't have to take responsibility and the problem can persist. It doesn't solve the
Exactly.
problem.
It
As
doesn't
long as
solve the problem.
you know this one, as long as there's one finger pointing there,
There's
there's
three
always
coming
three back.
back.
There's always three
Always
back.
three coming back at you. My granny taught me that one when I was a little girl.
Yeah, my mom always said, God helps those who help themselves. And she also said, be kind because
Mhm.
you
Yep.
catch more flies with honey, is what she said. And I was like,
Yep.
"Hey, Mom, then why do we have these fly strips hanging in the kitchen? They're ugly." I digress. Sorry.
Not a
Catch
problem.
it, check it, change it. That's a mantra that I want to hear you get out there and do your own little videos and push the crap out of this
I
because that is
absolutely am going
catchy.
to.
Catch
Yeah.
it, check it, change it.
Catch it, check
It's a
it, change it.
mantra. It's an
Yes.
affirmation. It's a
Yes.
way that people can get engaged with what you're doing here.
That's it.
And you know what, Tanya, we're doing the same thing. I flipped it a little bit around when I did 10 seconds of boldness. I agonized with it. And it's a lot of it's obvious stuff.
Yeah.
But if we're not willing to take a look in the mirror or look under the hood and
Yeah.
take a look inside and say, oh, what do we really need to do here?
Yes.
We don't come up with these systems, the storyboard method, or mine is a simple 5-step method. But I start with identifying the problem or the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like you, I clearly decide what it is that I want.
Mm-hmm.
That moves into why, and then we create a plan, and then we start working that plan, and we make adjustments as we go along. So it's the same thing. You're starting up here and then putting the problem down here. It's part of my nature, and it works for me to just rip the freaking band-aid off first. It may not be the best way to attract people, but you know what? It's just how I roll.
You know what? There's somebody who needs it just the way you give it.
Yeah, and also you also talk about this though with your 3 arc system when you're identifying the current situation. Inherent in that current situation is the full scope of your opportunities, your skills, your talents, your treasures, your interests, your desires, your ambitions, your goals, and the obstacles are part of that,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, yes. But we break it down and pull it apart so that you can start to see them all individually, and
I
then
like it.
how they overlap, right? Because at least in my experience from my own discovery, what I learned is in my own discovery, everything was collapsed, right?
Mhm.
It was all layering on top of each other. So it's hard to actually see progress because there's just too much stuff on top.
Yeah,
So
and
we
what you're
start to
doing is you're
pull,
extracting
yes,
exactly.
yes, we start to uncollapse all of these different ideas and perspectives and lenses. We uncollapse them so that we can see them as separate and distinct. And then we can start to put them in the right place and we can categorize them and then we can catch it, check it, change it, and then be responsible for the life that we want to live and how we want to show up in the world.
So we're coming up on the top of the hour here. Let's do this. You've got a book that's coming out soon. You've got a website that's in progress, but we want people who hear this to be able to connect with you because you are taking coaching clients now. This is a part of your business, in addition to some of the other stuff that we already talked about before on an organizational level. Are you taking individual one-on-one coaching clients?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's let people know how they can get a hold of you.
Awesome. I can be
Mhm.
reached. My email is Tanya at Level Up Coaching. My Level Up Coaching website is under construction.
It's
Um,
levelupcoaching.info, not
levelupcoaching.info. It is under construction. I don't even believe my contact system is working there, but I do have my advocacy platform that is up, and the email link is working there as well. So that's goodtroubleforchange.com.
I
So you
like
can
that.
you can reach me there at goodtroubleforchange.com. You can check out my YouTube video that talks about that whole platform. And I have a couple of videos on there about that issue. And
Is
there's
good trouble
a
for
way,
change? Is it the number four or is it spelled out?
it's FOR. Thank you for asking. Yeah. And the other thing I'd love to throw in is I do have a virtual retreat planned September 19th and 20th. It's called Reset, Reclaim, and Realign. It's based a lot around Mel Robbins' Let Them theory. I did the Let Them theory in my book club earlier this year, and it just hit. And it's been so big that so many people were asking for it again and again. So I said, you know what? Let me pull this in and let's do something. So I have that retreat September 19th and 20th. You can find it on Eventbrite.
Okay.
Reset,
What's the
Reclaim, and
title of it? Because
Realign.
there's a lot of events on Eventbrite.
Yeah,
So
it's Reset, Reclaim, and Realign
got it.
virtual retreat. And again, just reach out to me, Tanya at levelupcoaching.info or goodtroubleforchange.com.
Tanya, this has been a delight. Thank you for your willingness to have a real open, honest, and this is going to be unedited conversation because that's how I roll
I
and I
love it.
wouldn't have it any other way. So, folks, if you're just tuning in and this happens to be your first episode, we've got 40 more in front of it. There's some great episodes here. Tanya is a dynamite human being. I just met her a couple weeks ago, and we just had a real conversation here about real stuff, not for our benefit. We're going to benefit out of this, but for your benefit. So if you're struggling with trying to find out what it is that you want to do, reach out to me, reach out to Tanya, reach out to somebody because there's somebody out there who's been through exactly what it is that you're going through right now, and you don't have to do it alone. That's a big part of this show. You do not have to go through life trying to figure it out all on your own. So this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. Tanya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sean. This has been a blast. I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk, and I can't wait to see what else we can pull off together.
Oh God, it's going to be a blast. So
It is.
folks, until next time, I'm your host, Sean Langwell. Again, this is Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye. Thanks.